That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or the moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world.
15:7 Mamaivansho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatanaha manah shastraniindriyani prakritisthani karshati.
The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind.
15:8 Shariram yad avapnoti yachapi utkramatishvaraha grihit vaitani samyati vayu gandhani vashayat.
The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another.
15:9 Shrotam chakshuha sparshanam cha rasanam granameva cha adhisthaya manashchayam vishayanupasevate.
The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular sense of, he therefore enjoys a particular set of sense objects.
15:10 Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimuddhananupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshushaha.
The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this.
15:11 Yatanto yoginaschainam pashyanti atmanyavasthitam yatantopi akritatmano nainam pashyanti achetasaha.
The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose mind are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to.
15:12 Yad aditya gatam tejo jagad bhasayate khilam yad chandramasi yad chagno tat tejo vidhimamakam.
The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also form of me.
15:13 Gam avishya cha bhutani dharayami yahamojasa pushnami chausadhi sarva somo bhutvarasatmakaha.
I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables.
15:14 Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachamyanam Chaturvidham.
I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff.
15:15 Sarvasya chaham hidi sannivishto mata smritirjnanapohanam cha vedaishcha sarvairihameva vedyo vedanta kritveda videva chaham.
I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas.
15:16 Dvavimo purusho loke ksharashchakshara eva cha ksharaha sarvani bhutani kutastho uchyate.
There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible.
15:17 Uttama purushastvanyaha paramatmeti udaritaha yo lokatrayam avishya vibhatya vyaya ishvaraha.
Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them.
15:18 Yasmat ksharam atitoham aksharad api chottamaha atosmi loke vede cha rathita purushottamaha.
Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person.
15:19 Yo mam evam asamuddho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata.
Whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata.
15:20 Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam maya nagha etad buddhva buddhiman syat kritakrityascha bharata.
This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. O sinless one, it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection.
Om Tat Sat iti Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjun Samvadi Purushottama Yoga Nama Panchadaso Adhyaya Ki Jai.
Thank you, Jai. Thank you, Vrinda Devi. Thank you, Chetna Mataji, for today's recitation. That was wonderful. Very purifying. So, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So yesterday, Divyanam Prabhu finished the last verse of the 15th chapter And what we thought we would do is previously we had been going through the 11th chapter, but because we started the 15th chapter, because of Purushottam Mass, we stopped reciting the 11th chapter. So today we will continue reading from the 11th chapter, and we will continue from text number 47. Purushottam Yoga, which is the title of chapter 15. Purusha means enjoy, enjoyer. And Uttama means the topmost or the best. Yoga means to link. So Purushottam Yoga, literally translated, means to link with the supreme enjoyer, who is Krishna. So this chapter 15 was a relatively short chapter, only 20 verses. And the 11th chapter, entitled The Universal Form, is a fairly lengthy chapter, 55 verses. So one may wonder why such an important topic as Purushottam Yoga, linking to the Supreme Enjoyer, Krishna, is only 20 verses, whereas the 11th chapter, the Universal Form, is 55 verses. Now, through our readings previously, we saw, or we learned, and we discussed that a lot of the 11th chapter, the Universal Form, is describing the form itself, the various attributes, characteristics of the Universal Form of Krishna. Now, one may ask, why does Krishna dedicate so much of time? And we briefly discussed that in the past. Srila Prabhupada writes that Arjuna had a specific reason for requesting Krishna to reveal his universal form. And can someone recall what some of those reasons were?
The one is, Prabhuji, if someone says that I am God, so that person has to be shown this form.
Very good. Yes, Prabhupada says is to establish the criteria for God. So in this Kali Yuga, as Prabhupada writes in one of his purports, at any one point in time on this earthly planet, we may find thousands of people declaring themselves to be God. There are so many people, and every day, and quite often when I look at the news, I see another avatar being announced, not only in India, but also in places like Russia and various places in the West. So the Lord, or Arjuna, is establishing the criteria. If you are God, don't only claim, but demonstrate. Any other reasons anyone can think of? Okay, as long as we know that's the main reason. And Prabhupada says in the first purport to the verse, first and second purport, that now as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks Krishna as a mere human being, as a friend of his, but a source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened. And he's thinking that although he may accept Krishna as a source of everything, others may not. So in order to establish Krishna's divinity, he is requesting Krishna in this chapter to show his universal form. So the second reason was, some people may doubt that Krishna, when he's declaring himself to be God, they may doubt that Krishna is God, just like even the highest, most intelligent person in the universe, Lord Brahma, when he saw Krishna with the cowherd boys in Vrindavan, he was doubting whether this little boy can be God. So to establish Krishna's divinity, to establish, yes, Krishna is God, because anyone who can demonstrate the universal form, they'll have to be God. So these are two reasons we discussed. So today we will discuss text number 47. But I was thinking maybe before we do that, let's just do the overview of chapter 11, because it's been some time now since we read chapter 11. So just refresh our minds on what constitutes chapter 11. So essentially there are 5 sections to chapter 11. And as I mentioned previously, there's 55 verses. And we discussed previously that the first section, the first 8 verses, comprises of Arjuna's request and Krishna's description of his universal form. So even before Krishna revealed his universal form, he described it. And then Arjuna making the request. And then we moved on to text 9 to 31. And here we saw Sanjaya describing, because as we know, the whole Bhagavad Gita is Sanjaya describing to Dhritarashtra what was taking place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So Sanjaya is the third person, and he describes what Arjuna saw in that universal vision. And it was truly astonishing. He saw the whole of existence, immeasurable, great radiance, all in one place. He sees Krishna's all-destructive, frightening Kala Rupa, the form of time. And then Arjuna asks, what is your mission? Who are you? And we discussed that this was a very important question. What is the mission of the Lord? And in text 32 and 34, we described this very, very important principle. And Krishna says, time I am, the destroyer of the world. And Krishna basically says that time destroys everybody. And in fact, all of those soldiers and warriors on the battlefield were already destroyed by Krishna. That was already fait accompli. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you become my instrument. And we'd said that this is a very important principle in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes in the purport, we should become part of Krishna's plan. And a devotee means one who has aligned himself with Krishna's plan. And we discussed 2 important aspects of Krishna's plan. What is Krishna's plan for us, and what is Krishna's plan for the world? What does Krishna want us to do? Anyone can remember what we discussed?
He wants us to go back to him.
Very good, yes. He wants us to go back to him, and he wants us to perform devotional service to him. And that's the process by which we go back to him.
Yeah.
And another very important aspect of that plan, yes, Krishna wants us, not only us, he wants every single soul who is, as Prabhupada says, rotting in material existence to go back to Godhead. That is essentially Krishna's plan. So one is we make ourselves, we perform devotional service as part of Krishna's plan. And then secondly, what else we do?
Remember him always. Remember him.
Take other people back.
Yes, Savita, excellent. So if Krishna's plan is to take everyone back, one is we become part of the plan, another one is we become part of Krishna's mission. Krishna wants to take everyone back, so okay, Krishna, I'm going to become your instrument in taking everyone back. And that means becoming involved in the Sankirtan mission of the Lord, helping Krishna attract more and more souls to him. And that is the secret of success. And then text 35 to 46 is Arjuna's prayers. After Arjuna had seen Krishna's form, he was deeply affected. He was deeply affected, and he was trembling, and he was praying to Krishna, and he was begging Krishna for forgiveness. That he saw Krishna as his friend, he was sitting on the same bed as Krishna, and he was so informal to Krishna. And he considered himself to be in ignorance in that situation. And fearfully, he requested Krishna, please, I don't want to see this form anymore. Please now you show me your two-armed form. And that was Arjuna's request to Krishna. Please show me your two-armed form. And now we come to the last section, which is text 47 to 55. And this is that only the pure devotees can see Krishna's two-armed form. So Arjuna had seen the universal form, but now he's requesting to see the two-armed form. So we will now continue from there. So let me go back to the verses. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Okay, so this is text number 47. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Prasanena Tavarjunandam Rupa Param Darshitam Atma Yogat Tejamayam Vishvam Ananta Adyam Yanme Tvad Anyenatna Drishtapurvam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. And sorry, Arjuna wanted to see the universal form of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Krishna, out of his mercy upon his devotee Arjuna, showed his universal form full of effulgence and opulence. This form was glaring like the sun, and its many faces were rapidly changing. Krishna showed this form just to satisfy the desire of his friend Arjuna. This form was manifested by Krishna through his internal potency, which is inconceivable by human speculation. No one had seen this universal form of the Lord before Arjuna. But because the form was shown to Arjuna, other devotees in the heavenly planets in other planets in outer space could also see it. They had not seen it before, but because of Arjuna, they were able to see it. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of Krishna. Someone has commented that this form was shown to Duryodhan also when Krishna went to Duryodhan to negotiate for peace. Unfortunately, Duryodhan did not accept the peace offer, but at that time Krishna manifested some of his universal forms. But those forms are different from this one shown to Arjuna. It is clearly said that no one had ever seen this form before. So I'll repeat the Mangala Charanam prayers before we discuss. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Pushtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Picharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Pastachadi Shatarine. So the verse again, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency the supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence." So there are some particular aspects of the verse and purport that are especially relevant and important, and we'll attempt to discuss them now. So the first significant word in the purport is prashannena. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, prashannena, happily, happily have I shown you this form. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Krishna showed this form just to satisfy the desire of his friend Arjuna. So the question may arise, why was Krishna happily showing Arjuna this form? And Prabhupada answers this question. He says, just to satisfy the desire of his friend Arjuna. The Lord is very happy to satisfy the desires of his devotees. This is the reason why the Lord was happy. Krishna likes to see his devotees' desire satisfied. And Arjuna, Krishna wanted to satisfy Arjuna's desire. And this is the dynamic of the spiritual relationship between Krishna and his devotees. There is this transcendental competition. The devotee wants to please Krishna and satisfy Krishna's desires, but he has no aspiration and no desire for his own desires or senses to be satisfied. The devotee has this firm conviction that if Krishna is pleased, that is the source of all his happiness. Just like if the root of the tree is watered, the rest of the tree, the branches and the twigs and the leaves are all nourished. The same way the devotee has this firm conviction. So therefore the devotee does not strive at all for any extraneous form of happiness. The devotee is completely focused on Krishna's happiness. And Srila Prabhupada, in one of the purports in the Bhagavad Gita, he explains that is the definition of faith. This is the meaning of faith. That faith simply means that by satisfying the desires of Krishna, one has complete conviction that he will attain all satisfaction in life. So this is the position of the devotee. And for such a devotee, Krishna's mood is he wants to satisfy his devotee. This is transcendental competition going on. And as we spoke about last time, but Krishna has a problem. He's accepting all the service from his devotee, but the devotee does not want to accept any service from him. The devotee doesn't want to take anything from him. So this is Krishna's dilemma here. He has this desire to fulfill his devotee, but his devotee doesn't want to take any service from him. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada explains that the secret to spiritual life, one understands that by the meaning of Krishna, Krishna does not only mean the threefold bending form of Shyamasundar. But Krishna means his abode, his paraphernalia, and his devotees. So when one devotee tries to satisfy another devotee and serves him, and that devotee feels satisfied, like a devotee serves prashadam to another devotee or renders some pleasing service to another devotee, Krishna thinks to himself, oh, wonderful. This devotee is serving my devotee who I have been struggling so hard to serve. I am therefore very pleased with this devotee. So therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that the secret to spiritual life, to Krishna consciousness, is dasa, dasa, anudasa. We should endeavor to become the servant of the servant of the servant. Not only servant, but servant of the servant of the servant. And in this way, Krishna becomes very happy with us. So the next important aspect of this verse, Krishna says here, by his internal potency, he has revealed his universal form. So why internal potency? It is explained by Srila Prabhupada and in the various Vedic literatures that Krishna has multifarious potencies. But three potencies are predominant. Can anyone remember what are the three potencies?
Internal, external, and marginal.
Yes, thank you, Pramila Mataji. External, internal, and marginal. Pramila Mataji, would you mind if I ask you to explain briefly what each of these three potencies are?
Sorry, Prabhuji, I don't think I could do that.
Okay, no worries. Okay, the external potency of Krishna is the material world and the material creation. The marginal potencies are the jivatmas, us. We are known as jivatmas. So we are called as tatastha potencies, marginal potencies. And the internal potencies is Krishna's bhakti shakti, yeah? And the personification of Krishna's internal potency is Srimati Radharani, or also it is known as Krishna's spiritual potencies. Would anyone like to explain why we, the Jivatmas, are called marginal potency?
I think what it means that we can move in either way. Either we go more towards, recline towards spiritual way of life or towards more material way of life.
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Yes, Puja Mataji, well explained. So we are known as marginal potency because we can either be attracted towards the external energy or we can be attracted to the internal energy. So Krishna, that is a dent of our independence. Krishna has given us his independence. He doesn't force us to be engaged with the spiritual potency in his service. He gives us the option if we want to function outside of his internal potency. That is why the material nature is there. But Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no real happiness for the Jivatma in the external potency. Real life, real happiness lies with the internal potency of the Lord. So this form of the Lord, although it is explained in the 11th chapter, the universal form is a temporary form, and in one says, Prabhupada also says it's the material form, it is coming from Krishna's internal potency. Krishna's internal potency. And this internal potency, it is only revealed to certain types of jivatmas, those who are in the category of tatastha lakshana, or marginal potency. There's a nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 3rd canto, where Kashyap Muni is being told by the Lord that your grandson is referring to Prahlad Maharaj. Your grandson will be able to see inside and outside the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose wife is the beautiful goddess of fortune. The Lord can assume the form desired by the devotee, and his face is always beautifully decorated with earrings. So here's an important statement being made. The Lord can assume the form desired by his devotees. And in this instance, Arjuna desired to see the universal form. So depending on the relationship one desires to have with the Lord, Krishna will reciprocate and assume that form. And it is said, no matter what that form is, there is one specific feature, that his face is always beautifully decorated with earrings, which is a nice verse. Interestingly enough, in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that, not this purport, the purport of the verse itself, that the demigods, they could also see this universal form. And Prabhupada classifies the demigods in the purport in the category of devotees. And this universal form, which is a prerogative of the internal potency of the Lord, those can only be seen by the devotees. In the purport to the verse I just read now, Prabhupada says the direct vision is possible only for one who is highly elevated in Krishna consciousness. For the Lord is not possible to be seen with material eyes. So it would seem that the fact that the demigods could see it, and the fact that Krishna had to grant Arjuna this vision to see the universal form, means that the demigods were also granted some vision. Being devotees of the Lord, they were granted the vision to see this universal form. By dint, and the only qualification is that they were devotees of the Lord. And in this book, Prabhupada says, a pure devotee becomes attached to one of the eternal forms of the Lord, and the Lord is pleased to appear before him in the form desired. So all of us dependent on our swarup, means our eternal constitutional nature. We will have an attraction for a particular form of the Lord, either as Krishna or his incarnations like Lord Ramachandra or Lord Vishnu. Nrsimha, as Prabhupada says, Vasudev, Narayan, Ram, Nrsimha, Vara, and Vamanadev. We will all have an attraction for a particular feature of the Lord. We may be attracted to all features of all incarnations of the Lord, but there will be particular one feature of the Lord or incarnation or a manifestation of the Lord that we will be particularly attracted to and wanting to serve. And Prabhupada says a devotee does not imagine something whimsical about the form of the Lord, nor does he ever think that the Lord is impersonal and can assume a form desired by the non-devotee. The non-devotee has no idea of the form of the Lord, and thus he cannot think of any one of the above-mentioned forms. But whenever a devotee sees the Lord, he sees him in a most beautifully decorated form, accompanied by his constant companion, the goddess of fortune, who is eternally beautiful. So for the devotees, Krishna manifests himself in a beautiful form. Just like Prahlad Maharaj. It is said when Lord Nrsimhadev ripped open the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu, there were blood droplets all over the Lord. And Prahlad was looking at those blood droplets in the most affectionate way. And it is said, just like when Krishna comes back at the end of the day from herding the cows, often there are droplets of perspiration on the body of the Lord. And when the devotees see him returning with this form, with droplets of perspiration on his body, they find this very attractive. So Prahlad Maharaj, when he was seeing Lord Nrsimhadev like this, he was very attracted. So depending on the nature of a devotee is attracted in a certain way. And lastly, it is said no one has seen this form before. And just by this statement, we can conclude that to see the form of the Lord is very rare. Very, very rare. And in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami lists 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. And he says, and this one characteristic is Sudurlabha. Sudurlabha means it's very difficult to achieve, very rare to achieve. Pure devotional service is very difficult to achieve. And he says there are 2 reasons why pure devotional service is very rare to achieve. One is we cannot achieve it by our own efforts. As Prahlad Maharaj and the Lord Krishna himself says in the Bhagavatam, not by austerity, not by sacrifices, not by charity. He gives long lists how it is not possible to achieve the Lord. And then he says, all of them in the Bhagavatam, if you study, Jad Bharat, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, all of the devotees, their conclusion is unanimous. We cannot achieve pure devotional service by our own efforts, but we can achieve it by what? How?
By the mercy of the Lord.
By Krishna, unless Krishna wants to give it to us. That
No,
intelligent.
that's not what all the great devotees in the Bhagavatam have said. They
By
said something very
spiritual
special.
master.
Mercy,
By the
mercy of the
Master.
Yes, they all says by taking the dust of the lotus feet of the spiritual master or the pure devotee, that is the sure way we can achieve pure devotional service. All of these Mahajans in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they say the same thing. And the second reason why it is very difficult and rare to achieve, it is because Krishna is very reluctant to give it. And why is Krishna very reluctant to give it?
He'll be indebted to us.
Yes, he becomes indebted, completely indebted and sold out to his devotees. As Prabhupada writes in one purport, he becomes like a plaything in the hands of his devotee. So these are 2 reasons why this pure devotional service is very, very rare. One is we are not eager to achieve it, and it's difficult to achieve. And second, Krishna is reluctant to give it. But by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of the pure Vaishnavas, by the dust from their lotus feet, we can get it. And Krishna being merciful, he said, it's very interesting there that Krishna, way Prabhupada writes is that the demigods actually got to see this form because of Arjuna's mercy. Not because of Krishna's mercy, but because of Arjuna's mercy. Because of the parampara, that they got to see this universal form. And lastly, we can see that Krishna does not reveal himself to the non-devotees. At best, they may get to see some partial aspects of Krishna's form. Krishna may reveal it for some reason or the other, but they'll never get to see the form, the beautiful, beloved form that the devotees see. So I've gone a bit over today. Sorry about that. I'll stop here and I'll take any reflections, comments, questions that anyone may have.
Prabhuji, there was one word that I thought was quite significant, was that in this supreme universal form within the material world. Why is it specified that it was the material worlds that no one has seen this form?
Prabhupada has explained that in previous purports. Prabhupada says that the universal form it is a temporary form, and it is only displayed by the Lord in the material world. Because what we discussed previously, the purpose of the universal form is to show or to demonstrate Krishna's divinity to those who have doubts. And secondly, to set the criteria. And where does that only exist, the need for that? Only in the material world.
Only. So it wasn't shown anywhere else then. Krishna
No,
hasn't shown his material.
only in the material world is this
Only
universal
in
form
the
shown.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or reflections?
Oh, sorry.
Prabhuji, you know that 2 reasons of Krishna, that we can achieve it by our own efforts, or is it we cannot achieve it by our own efforts? Can you please check in that slide?
Yeah, in the Nectar of Devotion, Sudurlabha, Srila Rupa Goswami says it's very rare because we cannot achieve it, we cannot attain pure devotional service by our own efforts. We can't.
But in the slide it says we can, so is it right? Can you please check?
Okay, you mean in the purport?
You know, two reasons in your slides.
Or maybe I made a typographical. Let me go back and.
Sorry,
okay, no problem, Mataji. Let me go back. Yeah, it should read, we cannot achieve it. My apologies. We cannot achieve it by our own efforts. It should have said cannot here. It's rare because we cannot achieve it by our own efforts. So someone may say, should I stop trying then? Actually, our effort is required, but it is required in the sphere of bhakti, devotional service. As we know in Damodar Leela, it says, the rope was always 2 fingers short. And these 2 fingers represent, 1 is our effort, and 2 is the mercy of Krishna. But of the 2, we always understand, that one can go on executing Vaidhi, regulative devotional service for many millions of lifetimes. But unless one has affection, unless one develops affection within one's heart, one will not attain bhava bhakti. And a lot of these statements are made largely in the context of bhava bhakti or prema bhakti. Achieving prema bhakti is very rare, or bhava bhakti is very rare, because you can do sadhana for millions of lifetimes. Unless we develop that affection for the Lord, that sadhana will not bear any fruits. And largely that affection develops through the mercy and the association of Krishna's pure devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Meena Mataji, you have.
Yes, I just had a question. You were saying that Prahlad Maharaj has seen that, nourishing Bhagwan,
Yes.
And he was not scared. Even Lakshmi ji was scared, but he was not scared. And then when Arjuna has seen the Virat Swarup of Krishna, he was fierce. So he was also pure devotee. So how it's like.
It comes back to this point, Mataji, that everybody has a particular form of the Lord that they are totally comfortable with. Totally comfortable with. Like in Arjuna's case, the 2-armed form of Krishna was the form he was totally comfortable with. And the Virat Rupa was not that form. But for Prahlad, because Lord Nrsingadev is his eternal Istadev, his eternal form of the Lord that he's totally comfortable and happy with, he was not afraid. So it depends on one's swarup and one's constitutional position too. I'm not sure if that is making sense to you.
Yeah, but then why Lakshmi ji was like fear? Why when he?
Because Lakshmi Devi is Ishta Devi is Vishnu, isn't it? The
Yeah.
form of the Lord, not Nrsimha. Although Lakshmi Nrsimha, there's another aspect of Lakshmi Devi,
Yeah,
and
because
another aspect of Lakshmi that is
when they have seen the anger of like nourishing, they were at that time demigod said to Lakshmi Devi that you can because it's very angry you can go and but at the time
pacify.
Lakshmi Devi also said she can't like
Yes.
see.
But there's another aspect of Lakshmi who is the eternal consort of Lord Nrsimha. But she's in a certain mood or rasa with Lord Nrsimha. And when he shows this ugra side of his eternal form, then she's not so comfortable because her rasa with Lord Nrsimha is a bit different. It depends on the rasa, the relationship. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Anyone? All
Hare
right.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, just a reflection. Very interesting point that we're the marginal potency because we can either be attracted to the external or the internal potency of Krishna. Well, either Krishna or his external energy. So that was a new way of looking at free will. So why do we have the free will? So it's our choice to choose that energy or Krishna himself. So
yes, wonderful. Vaisheshika Prabhu has a very wonderful way of describing the tatastha. He says the tatastha potency, the jiva, is open to suggestion. So the materialists are suggesting to the jiva, enjoy the material world, buy a new TV, buy a new phone, go on holiday, eat better food. So the material energy is suggesting to the jiva, enjoy in this way. And the jiva is very open to that suggestion. But the jiva is also very open to the suggestion of hearing about the spiritual world and returning to the spiritual world. And the only people who can expose the jivas to that suggestion are the devotees. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, it is very important for devotees to preach Krishna consciousness because there are unlimited amount of souls there that are open to suggestion. The suggestion of the spiritual world of devotional service and all of their existence, millions of lifetimes of existence, all they've been hearing is the suggestions of the material energy. So the devotees of the Lord, they bring the suggestions of the spiritual energy, the messages of Krishna consciousness. And therefore the devotees, Krishna says in the Gita, the devotees are so dear to him. So this is very important, and every time I see Divyanam Prabhu encouraging the devotees, get involved in the Sankirtan mission, get involved in book distribution, he's basically saying, come, let's give this jivas are open to suggestion. Let's give them the message about Krishna consciousness. Yeah, thank you for that reflection, Geta.
Prabhuji, may I ask a question?
Sure.
I just wondered about this bhakti. Is that, what form does it matter which form that takes? I'm just thinking about people who tend to be more intellectual or more emotional, whether it's an emotion or whether it's, like a state of mind.
Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami explains that the bhakti that we're talking about is of a very specific type. There are different types of bhakti. Some is called karma mishra bhakti. Some is called jnana mishra bhakti. And then there's yoga mishra bhakti. Mishra means mixed. There are some people approach bhakti mixing it with karma, desire for some fruit of activity. There are some people that approach bhakti and it's mixed with some desire for intellectual achievement or liberation. There are some people who approach bhakti mixed with some desire for some yogic siddhi. But there is one bhakti that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Vaishnava Acharyas, they say this is the only bhakti. Even Srimad Bhagavatam says, ahaituki apratihata. It must be unmotivated and uninterrupted. And that what we refer to is kevala or uttama bhakti, pure bhakti. So this is the type of bhakti that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is distributing and Srila Prabhupada. Other types of bhakti, Mahaprabhu said, cannot satisfy the soul. Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti will not satisfy, truly satisfy the Jivatma.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused about like, you know, when you see sort of like a mother playing with a child or
Yes.
just interacting with a child.
Yes.
Some mothers show their love through practical ways, like for
Yes.
example, cooking and changing or nurturing the child in a practical way. And whereas some other different parent might just nurture a child by comforting the child by through words. Where you can really see that this is coming from the emotional heart and it's not a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was like really kind of struggling with, whether it matters.
There are 9 items to bhakti: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Dasyam, Padasevanam. You know, worshipping, chanting. Chanting means reading, worshipping the lotus feet, remembering. As long as it falls within those 9 items of bhakti, it doesn't matter. And as long as the ultimate purpose is the connection of the heart, it's the consciousness. What is the goal in this activity? It's like a mother when she's either, you know, reading to the child or showing the child pretend how to cook, giving the child different activities. What is the end goal? The end goal is to cultivate the loving relationship with the child, and also to grow the child, to develop the child. So in the same way, all of these activities, if it strengthens our relationship to Krishna, right? And it is always freed of any taint of any other desires. That is all within the realm of bhakti, all of these activities. But the consciousness is very important. What is the goal? What is the aim in what we do?
Okay, that's really helpful. And just kind of one small added question to what you've just said.
Sure.
Have you got a reference for these 9 items that I can look up?
Yes, that's in the 7th canto.
Oh, okay.
7th canto, you can go onto the Vedabase and look at Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Dasyam. That is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj.
Okay. Are you able to say what verse it is?
Yeah, I'll share that with you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The verse is 7, 5, 23 and 24, somewhere there.
Oh, there you go.
7, 5, 7, 5, 23.
23 and 24, it's a double verse.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mukundari Prabhu. All right, dear devotees, thank you so much for your time and your patience and your lovely questions. And all glories to your service. And we shall see you all again tomorrow.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.